Last week, when we discussed about going against the flow, we briefly mentioned one of the side effects of doing so, that being that some people pretend to think or believe in a certain way so as not to upset those individuals. However, pretending to be someone you are not has further implications. As an example, there are Catholics out there that pretend to be passive and welcoming of all walks of life and types of people, even those they don't agree with ideologically. And many of those Catholics are afraid and go on to pretend to agree with those individuals so as not to upset them or offend them. I recently had to fill out a resume for a job application where, I was asked, are you for diversity? And well, of course, I'm not against diversity. I think it's a really silly thing that I have to be asked and I have to write explicitly that I'm, pro-diversity. It's just it should be a given, but instead, I'm asked and I'm told to pretend that I put it as a focal point on a job application. And I'm sure we've all been in that position where we were told we had to basically pretend we accept something that we don't necessarily agree with. So how does one stay true to themselves and their ideals?
Well, most of us know what we are, right? You know what you are. I know what I am. So people know themselves probably the best than they know anything else in their life. And therefore, it should be easy to know what you are. The problem is that we always try to fit into the particular groups and we don't want to stick out. And, thinking about it right now, that's something actually, fortunately, we condition ourselves right from the school. Because when, the kid start, going to the school, what is the first thing? Well, it's not what is the first thing the kid try to do in that particular school. It's not the study, and not to learn anything. The very first thing is to find a friend, right? Mm-hmm. Because now the kid is first time away from the parents. It's on its own. Sitting in a classroom, well, I feel lonely. I need to find a friend. Well, how do I find a friend or, friends? Well, I gotta pretend that I am something so I can fit with that guy here or that guy over there or that group of the guys over there. And slowly and surely, over the years, the kids, all of us actually, because we go to the schools, we condition ourselves to make ourselves fit in that group because, hey, that being in that group, that makes me feel safe. I'm not alone. I'm not sticking out because on my own, I will not survive. I'm not a Spider-Man who will survive on its own, right? I'm not that kid, with his superpowers, I can take care of myself. I'm actually one who needs the other people around me for the support. Now that seems, very realistic, in school, that support, but, we know that it's not. But we condition ourselves through that first 12 years of the schooling. We continue that later on in our lives, going to the school of higher education, college or universities, or at a workplace or where we live and so on. We keep pretending that we are something we are not, even though deep inside we are kind of a little bit ashamed for it. Always later on, like I know myself, many times, especially when I was younger, I was thinking like, why even pretended that I like to do these things? Like, for example, I was living in the area where a lot of, my peers were drinking all the time. That was back in a communist country. So that was the pastime of the choice, was drinking, because there was nothing else to do. And the alcohol was freely available even to the underage. It didn't really matter at all. So that was the thing to do. And I pretended like, yeah, sure, I like to drink. Yeah, let's get drunk. And I hated it after that because I was thinking like, why I was even doing that? I hated drinking. It's just stupid. You talk stupid after that. You behave stupid. And generally, you lower yourself and almost like an animal rather than just being the human being and using the intelligence, the wisdom, and so on in discussions and behavior. And I hated it. But I've done it every single time because I wanted to be part of the group. I just didn't want to stick out and I don't leave myself alone. That is hard to break, really hard to break, especially for younger people, because at your age, even in the 20s, because like how I gonna actually make it on my own? Not just to being on my own, but because now I'm gonna be actually against, the multiple people who could be my friends, who could be my buddies who will support me in the time of need. So I don't think so that anybody, walk away from that guilt feeling. Even those who are even the most caught up in their hearts, later on, when they are on their own, when just the thoughts come about what they've done, they feel guilty. So I think it's a universal thing. And that guilt is like a poison. It slowly poisons the heart, slowly poisons the soul.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually that is the end. How deep you're going to go, right, with those lies. So the truth, even though it seems like at the beginning, like, what is this? That's hard. Like, how am I going to resist it? That is the only actually the solution anyway. Yes, it's hard. It's painful. It's tough, but that's the only way. Otherwise, as a person, you're not going to find a peace. I don't think so. It's even possible.
Do you think, because last episode we talked about one of the ways of going against the flow is by baby steps, right?
Yes.
Sort of slowly move your position and your beliefs and ideals to more that actually you firmly believe in, right? Don't just like appear to everybody as this just black sheep, right? Do you think that that's, well, I mean, it definitely probably does apply to this when you're trying to, pretend, but I mean, like, what's kind of the line, and how to actually do this ethically? Because if you're doing baby steps here, to some degree, you're still pretending, right?
Well, not really, not necessarily, Just it's more like, if I could make it in plain words, it's not how much you lie, right, or how much you pretend, which is kind of lying anyway. It's how much you present your truth on the others. You don't have to pretend, but you don't have to, lay out all things you believe in immediately on the others, because there is always, a response.
Right.
So just start, with the small things. You got to continue, as everything else, else in our lives. We have to condition ourselves. I'm not going to jump into the water and go swim 5 miles if I do not know how to swim in the first place. And even though I know how to swim, if the body physically is not ready for the swimming for long distance, I'm not going to jump in the water and start swimming 5 miles. You got to first condition yourself. Therefore, that I'm going to be facing the pressure, mental pressure, because of my own beliefs and so on. I'm not going to jump in that water and just spreading out without even being asked to. All my beliefs, all my core thinking and so on. I'm not going to lay that out, because there is going to be, of course, there is going to be consequences. There is going to be pressure back towards me. And again, if I am not that conditioned to face that pressure, then usually the result, what's going to be results? Well, I'm going to break pretty fast, which is going to be just disheartening and counterproductive later on to actually continue be truthful. So it's almost like being super sore after the workout, right? To the point that you cannot work out the next day anymore. So yes, unfortunately, that's how it is with our lives. We have to condition ourselves. And specifically right now, we have to condition ourselves at the older age, because most of us, you start thinking about these things in our 20s or so on. We should be conditioned by our parents when we are growing up for these kind of things. But these things are not taught anymore by the parents, because let's be honest, parents nowadays are stupid, majority of them, because because they haven't acquired any wisdom, any knowledge from their parents, and their parents, the grandparents, did probably the same thing with their parents. So, or that wisdom.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly, domino effect. The domino effect, caused that the wisdom and the knowledge and everything else is just transferred from one generation to another. Specifically right now, we're talking about being honest and truthful with the others as much as with yourself. That has been forgotten, a long time forgotten. We are now almost like the actors, because that's what we know. So yes, unfortunately, you have to start, in the older age, start conditioning yourself rather than having that the abilities right from your childhood, from those first 18 years living with the parents, learning all that stuff and being conditioned for that stuff. That is not there, unfortunately. Are there some exceptions? Yeah, probably there are, but in majority of us, it's not. So yes, you got to start slow, because otherwise it's going to be just a heartbreaking, and most of these people are just going to quit. Right. So that's how it is. Take it slow, and it doesn't mean that you have to be dishonest and still pretending. No, you don't. But don't get yourself in a situation where you will face substantial amount of the pressure because for your beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your beliefs are your beliefs, just take the stance on the things when you are asked to. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, you're not a paid, reporter. You're not well, I hope that some of us at least not going to be try to be, the media influencers and so on, in these kind of things, right? Like nobody really cares. Nobody really cares. So it's just at the beginning, be honest with yourself, start being honest with yourself and start slowly but surely present what you are. And it's kind of funny that if you do gradually, the people will realize it themselves, at least in your surroundings. And therefore, once you're going to get a little bit harder, right, your stance going to be a little bit harder and broader and more that really set in stone. These people are going to already know, like, hey, that guy, well, we know him. He was like that for as much as we know him. So there is no surprise that he is really, taking the stance in his beliefs, and so on. So the response from them is not going to be as harsh as you just suddenly, like over one night, like, okay, I changed my mind. I know what I think that everything what I've done before was crazy and stupid. This is what I believe. Everybody's going like, what? Are you nuts? What are you doing? That kind of sense?
No, it does. It does. Yeah. I mean, like I definitely can say that I've had a lot of friends. I think I even mentioned it in the last episode where I had coworkers that I slowly kind of opened up more to, and I started actually having better relationships with because I was being more open with them. But yeah, it wasn't like something like, I just immediately dumped in all of my, personal beliefs and then just started turning them away. It was kind of more like a gradual thing where it was like, slowly I opened up a little bit more, and slowly there was a bit more of a closer friendship from that.
I believe there is something about that saying, the truth will set you free.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You heard it many times, right? There is something about it, even though it sounds kind of old-fashioned and not really applicable in our lives. I think it's actually as actual as it ever was before. You look at the people who pretend. It's mostly the people who are on the left, not just the politicians, but also the celebrities, the actors, singers, and so on, right? The people who just agree with any crazy idea, they faced with anything, right? Well, you can see that their hearts, their souls are slowly being poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that when it happens, they are not happy with their lives. Because poison, just like a poison to the body, poison to the soul, it hurts. Mm-hmm. It's painful. Right. And you live with it 24/7. It's not something you can walk away from because it's inside you, right? It eats you slowly alive. Mm-hmm. Because these kind of people, they always have some type of addiction because they try to kill that pain. Being the alcohol, being the drugs, they use the sex or whatever it's available to kill that pain because it's natural reaction for the body. I don't like this pain. I gotta live 24/7. There is no way I can get away from it. I can even fly, some expensive vacation, go on my yacht, go on my island, go to my secluded mansion. And I'm still in the pain. It doesn't go away inside because my soul is getting hurt. My heart, it's just the conscience is slowly eating away. How can I get away? Well, hey, we got some ways to do it. Let's get some drugs. That's going to kill some pain, right?
Or alcohol.
Alcohol and so on, right? That is the indicator right away that it affects them already. And you can see, unfortunately, those things, once they get hooked up, it's also visible in their behavior. And you don't have to be a really psychologist and understanding the body language. And you can be just a regular person and you can see some of these politicians or some of the celebrities and be like, wow, that person is definitely on something. Is using something.
Right.
Look at that person's eyes, look at the behavior. There is something really, really wrong. Yeah. So, the truth will set you free. We can pretend for a while, but we cannot pretend forever. The conscience will get us eventually, sooner or later. Mm-hmm. So why to deal with that conscience pain? Isn't it better just to deal with that short-term, pain from being rejected, being resisted by the people? But once you condition yourself to it, you realize it's not so bad. Actually, it's even rewarding. Because just like after the workout, right, if I go to the gym, since I'm conditioned, actually after workout, that pain, that soreness actually feels good, right? Because I feel like, well, I accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing, with this being the truthful. Once you condition yourself, that pain, from rejection from certain people and so on, it's actually going to feel good because you're going to be like, wow, there was some repercussions from those people. But you know what? Actually, it feels good because I took the stance for what I truly believe. I didn't compromise my ideals. I didn't compromise my ideas, my core ideas. Actually, I did something right. And there were, repercussions from those people, but it actually felt good. I feel good right now.
Right. Well, you kind of briefly just mentioned right now about how some of these celebrities, they seek these material goods to try to block out the pain. That was kind of was leading me almost to the next question I was going to ask, right? With social media, a lot of these influencers and of course, yes, also celebrities, they absolutely will fake an identity just so that their followers or their following will not present a backlash to them, right? So they can kind of appear to the largest denominator. Hell, you'll even see politicians, they'll do this too, where they'll put themselves on a policy that they don't agree with. You can tell that they don't agree with it, and everybody knows that. But they'll say, hey, we agree with this policy. And, that's a way to kind of win and buy votes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But specifically with social media, what are your opinions on how we can maybe curb those effects with these, influencers and celebrities?
Well, I think the best way would be just to not even listen to them. I mean, there are some really good podcasts. And it's very easy to recognize which are good because you can see right away when you listen to them for 5 minutes, they're talking from the heart, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about necessarily just the people who are talking about, let's say, about Christianity and or the faith, or the people who are on the right political spectrum, who are conservative, I mean, I'm definitely going to be talking, I would even, listen or talk to the people who are even on the left. As they're really talking from the heart, because that's what really they believe. That is just fine. The problem is, but when you're talking to the people, or listen to the people who are not talking from the heart, they will just pretend they are something, and they're talking about something they have no idea what is it about. I give you, for example, the young people in the colleges, screaming, oh, pro-Palestine,
Right.
Israel, yeah, push them to the seas, right? Or you talk to them, or you listen, them, they got no idea what you're talking about. There is no depth in their belief whatsoever. Nothing, none. They're just pretending they are something, and most of them, they just do it because, I want to be part of this, cool, group, I want to be the cool kid too. I don't want to be by myself. I want to join them and do something awesome with them because it's so much fun, and we can get together and,
What's that rebellious young adult spirit, right?
But it's rebellious about what? At least you will be rebel
About anything.
About something. What do you believe, right? But it's just about something that doesn't make any sense. So it's what we're trying to say, that they try to rebel against the common sense. I mean, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
It is.
Right? So
I mean, I think it's just because a lot of those younger people, they want to have something to prove. They want to, because you kind of mentioned it even earlier again with how people they get all this money, they get all this wealth, right? And then they need to do drugs or do illicit activities or alcohol or whatever, just to find a sense of purpose, right? And so for young people, not everybody, of course, obviously I'm not one of them, but there's a lot of young people out there that they'll rebel just to find purpose. My opinion on this question that I posed earlier was that a lot of people, they also use social media to find purpose, right? That is their purpose is, I'm gonna become an influencer, quote unquote influencer, and I'm gonna make a YouTube channel or whatever, and I'm gonna post videos of my hobby. But again, a lot of people they almost have to kind of tiptoe the line. I've seen a lot of, for instance, firearms YouTube channels where you can tell they're conservative. You can tell the way they dress, the way they have their family values and whatnot, but they just can't say that because they know they have some more, left-leaning viewers out there that would absolutely, try to cancel them and whatnot. The moment they even figure out right? That they are, that leaning. So,
Well, if
it's kind of
this is since you mentioned, especially about the firearms. I would even call it the social media influencers. I mean, they talk about something which they love, something which they understand, they want to share with, and it doesn't be just the firearms, right? I mean, it can be anything. Can people talk about skiing, for example, right? Or talk about mountain biking, or talk about, I don't know, playing video games, right?
right.
Well, hey, this is actually something which you really like to do, and you posting those videos not because you trying, to make yourself, relatable to the others and trying to find the friends and support because you are just such a lonely soul, right? You're doing because you love this particular subject. And that is okay. That's actually what I think obviously YouTube and all the other social medias were made for, right?
Right. It was to express your hobbies. Yeah.
Yeah. Something which you really, have your heart into. But when you got, those idiots, and I don't want to say young idiots because there are some even older idiots too, and they talk about the things they got absolutely no idea about. But not only that, not only they have no idea, they're just talking about it because it's popular, because it's going to generate the views.
And that's going to also pay their paycheck, right?
Yeah,
because they rely on it.
Yes. So, or because they feel lonely and they need to talk about something and they need to, get, that huggy from these people around, at least, with the thumbs up and so on. So that's the only reason why they do that. Well, that's completely stupid. You want to have the friends, go find your friends outside. I mean, don't look for your friends, on social media. Because that's not going to give you any friendship anyway, right? You can have 1,000 friends.
It's never going to be intimate.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah. So my response would be like, hey, buddy, what you looking for? You're not going to find it here. You might going to find, 2,000 friends, on a social media. You might going to have, the 5,000, thumbs up clicks, and so on. But it's not going to create anything for you. You're going to be as lonely as you were before.
Yeah.
You want to have friends, find your real friends.
Right. It's just basically a faceless following.
It is. I noticed that one thing, right? I noticed that myself, especially the younger generation. But then again, not necessarily just the younger generation. I don't want to be just pinpoint, just at them. It pretty much means anybody nowadays. These people are still lonely. They are still depressed. The suicide rate nowadays is higher than any time before. It was never as high as it is right now. And I mean right now. I don't mean like 5 years ago or last 10 years. I mean right now. It's as high as it ever was. And why is that? Well, most of the time it's because people are depressed because they are lonely. They got no one to talk to. They got really no emotional support. And we are, as human beings, we need each other to carry us through our lives. And how is that even possible? That guy, that girl, that old guy, that old lady, they got, I see over 5,000 followers. How is that possible? Well, because those followers means absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's like a fake money. It's like a monopoly money. Hey, here is $5,000 in monopoly money. Go buy yourself something for it. It has no value. It has value only in the game itself, but not in real life. And so is the social media. Those followers and those clicks, those thumbs ups and so on means absolutely nothing in real life.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of almost say that kind of goes with this podcast, right? We don't do this podcast because we're trying to be popular. I mean, if anything, that's kind of proven that we're not.
As I told you, for me, it's
because we believe what we say.
Yeah, major thing about it is talking, me to you, like father to the son. And for me, as long as you're going to get something from it, that's great. And again, some of the things we talked about before seem so great, so good, and not really heard around, among the young people. And from your perspective with your friends, and from my perspective, the people who I know of my age, they didn't talk these kind of things with their kids as a parents. Mm-hmm. And that's what's kind of the thing was like, we figured out, like, hey, maybe some of these things would be valuable to the others. Mm-hmm. But if not, that's still cool, That's, again, as they say, right. Shooter's choice. You don't want to use it? Okay, don't use it.
Well, we are a little over time, so I will have to stop it there. That'll be it for this week. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to us, as we may answer them in a future episode. We'd appreciate it if you could follow us on all social media. And until next week, thanks for listening, take care, and God bless.
Godspeed.